Hi everyone, it's Amanda. How are you doing? I'm sitting here slightly blown away because I knew I was going to be sitting down to do a Freddie Mercury channeling this morning. Freddie came in last night when I was walking into town. I'll tell you a little bit about that in a moment because there were some quite funny little stories and things that happened on that walk. I will just say before I forget to as well, firstly, welcome. Anybody is welcome to this video. But I am going to put a warning out on it, which is that I know that there will be swearing and I know that there's going to be sexual references on this video. So if you're at all offended by that, please just switch off now. It's not worth getting your knickers in a state about, as Freddie is saying. Okay, I'm not meaning to be rude. It's just that I'm not going to filter Freddie out because I feel as though we need his energy more now than ever. And he is in quite a naughty mood. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to try and just keep us on some of the subjects that I want to talk about, but he's in a very flirtatious mood. He's in quite a naughty mood, so you have been warned. If you've also got children that are watching with you, maybe you might want to put your headphones on. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to be full on. It's just there are going to be some references that if you've got little kiddies, maybe you don't want them to hear. Okay. But yeah, I'm sitting here blown away because he's been overdue for a while. People have been requesting Freddie Mercury for months on my channel. I have channeled him before, so I will maybe try and put the links to my other videos below on Freddie, because I don't want to go over old ground of what we've already talked about. Freddie hated being asked the same questions the whole time when he did interviews here on Earth. So even though this is not an interview, this is an informal chat with him, I still, one of the things he wants to talk about, for example, is boredom. So we're not going to go over stuff we've already talked about. But yeah, I'm blown away because I'm just looking at my little Heart Squad calendar that one of you made me, and I honestly had not appreciated that it's his anniversary of death next Tuesday on the 24th of November. So, wow, okay. We've also got JFK as well on Sunday. So anyway, I have to say, whenever I do a Heart Squad video, and Heart Squad is a group of souls that I channel that have crossed over to spirit, who are people that we know, okay? There is a playlist on my channel, you can look back at who I've done, but it's really strange. I haven't done a Heart Squad video for a while, and it's as though they all clamoured in this morning. So this is going to be just about Freddie, but I have to say, I turned on the radio. The first thing I saw, actually, when I woke up today, I was just scanning the news on my phone, and it was referencing the fact that the album that John Lennon signed for Mark Chapman, who killed him, is up for auction or something like that. So it's like I had John around. Then I turned on my radio and they were marking a particular year in history, playing songs from it. I think it was 1990, something like that. Anyway, it was referencing also Michael Jackson. Apparently this is the anniversary of Thriller, the video, being released. And the DJ was saying that, you know, he stayed up and watched it live on MTV as it was in those days, because there was no such, you know, you weren't watching it on YouTube. So there's a reference to Michael. Then there was a reference to David Bowie. Then there was a reference to David Cassidy, who, yeah, I have not channeled, but this week somebody asked me to channel and said, is he part of the Heart Squad? I'm undecided whether I'll do David or not, but they mentioned David Cassidy. There was somebody else that was mentioned. There was another one of the big guns, as I call them. Did I mention Bowie? Anyway, it just makes me laugh because they all just sort of crowd in. And yesterday, when I was walking into town and became aware of Freddie with me, well, the first sign he gave me, it was damp, it was grey, it was about 5 o'clock, the light was starting to go, but I wanted to get my walk in. And yeah, it was a miserable sort of day, really. And as I started to think about Freddie, I looked down at the ground at that moment and there was a white feather, but it was sort of stuck to the pavement. It was half stuck to the pavement, drowned basically by all the, you know, the wetness. And but half of it was sort of sticking up. And there was something in the fact that half of this feather was sort of like mangled and had been trodden on, but the other half was still wanting to fly. And it just made me chuckle. I just felt there was something in that, which is a nod to the fact that these are difficult, challenging times that we're going through, and we all feel a bit sort of like, oh, this some days, but Freddie's wanting to give us a bit of a lift. Then I saw what I thought was another feather. Just out of the corner of my eye, something went like that, floated right past me in my periphery, and it landed in a bush. And, oh, stop it, he is naughty today. It landed in this bush, and I thought it was a robin at one point. So I was looking for the signs that it might be Freddie, but it wasn't, it was just a leaf. And then straight away I heard this, which is a famous quote by Muhammed Ali, which is, "Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee." Now, Muhammed Ali has also been, I know he wants to be part of this Heart Squad, and I definitely will channel him. But I was thinking, well, why have I got Muhammed Ali? You know, I'm going to be channeling Freddie tomorrow. And then, of course, Freddie reminds me that he used to box. He used to be quite a proficient boxer. So I sort of asked him, I said, have you spent time with Muhammad Ali up there or wherever you are? And he said, oh, sure, yeah, sure. He was making me laugh because, as I say, he's in this light-hearted mood. And he said, yeah, he's my minder up here. And he showed me this image of, this great big Muhammad Ali, big bear type man, with his arm around Freddie, who was appearing smaller. I can't remember what height Freddie was, but anyway, this is how I was being shown it. And then Freddie said to me, he said, oh, of course, I don't need minders up here. I don't really need minders up here. He was just joshing. And I said, well, have you been sparring up there? And he said, well, his fists are a lot bigger than mine. He said, but I'm very light on my feet. But he was laughing because he was saying, Muhammad Ali, obviously in a totally different level. I'm not putting myself there. But yeah, I did get the impression they were just sort of play fighting, not obviously trying to harm each other or anything. But I'm seeing them now. It's like Muhammad Ali, he was light on his feet, wasn't he? And, all of this type of stuff. And I can see Freddie there in the other corner. And yeah, it's just very playful. It's a very, very playful energy. So that was the second thing that happened. Then as I'm walking back home, I have to walk across a bridge because I live near a river. And it's quite a small little bridge with a very small little pavement. So because of COVID, again, let's not get into all of the, the slanging match of why these things are happening in our world. I think we all need to have a bit of fun today. You have to walk one way across the bridge, walking into town, and you have to cross the road and walk the other side, coming back from town. So the idea is you're not passing people because it's a very narrow pavement. Most people abide by the rules, including me. But anyway, as I came back and was about to cross the bridge to get onto the right side, Freddie was like, I dare you, go on, be a devil, break the rules. And because there was nobody on the bridge that I would even have passed, so it was all a bit ludicrous, really. And I was sort of saying to her, I said, oh no, I can't, I'm a good girl, I will do what is being asked of me. And so he then sort of like skipped effectively in front of me and proceeded to accompany me as I was walking across the bridge, but he was in front of me and he was sort of like looking at me going, you chicken. But again, very, very light-hearted, not at all, nasty, just playful. It's like looking back, you chicken. And then I said to him, yeah, but Freddie, it's tough down here at the moment. I said, we've got all of these rules and these regulations and, people are looking at what you're doing and are you doing it right? I said, it's not easy, Freddie. So he said, I didn't say you couldn't wear a mask. I wasn't wearing a mask, but he said, I didn't say you couldn't wear a mask if you were going to, be on the wrong side of the pavement. So I was like, oh, okay. And then he just showed me, and this is the bit of the naughty bit, really. He showed me, if he was alive today, what his mask would look like. And basically, it was just like this great big cat on his face. And he said, it's not the first time that I would have had that on my face. But he didn't use the word cat, okay? He used the word beginning in P and ending in Y. Okay, I'm not going to say it because I am an English girl, okay, and I do try and I've got a reputation to try and maintain here, Freddie. But you know, that was sort of the level of it yesterday. It sort of deteriorated from that point on, and I'm not going to repeat any of the other stuff. But, you know, that's where he was at. You know, it was like, come on, yeah, okay, you've got to play by the rules, but you can also have a bit of fun with it as well, you know? So I loved all of that. But yes, and I'm feeling fluttery, you know, just in his energy now. So let's bring him through. I've got some questions from some of you. I mean, to be honest, I've got hundreds of questions, but we're only going to be able to get through a few. Let's bring him in. Now, I've got some beautiful photographs of him here. These are the ones that I've chosen for today's video. In one of my previous channelings with Freddie Mercury, sorry, that's my light, we talked about his relationship with Jim Hutton and also with Mary Austin. Okay, so we've covered that in previous videos. You can look back at that. But they were obviously the two big loves of his life. He loved men. I must say before I forget, one thing he was also saying to me yesterday, and I have actually been looking for a set, is that you can get tarot decks which have got more of a, want of a better word, they're gay themed basically. I'm sure that's probably not the right term, but you know, the traditional tarot decks, the traditional oracle decks are often drawn and interpreted from a very male-female type perspective. And I do know there are some amazing artists out there. I think one of the companies I've been looking at might be Red Tent Publishing or something like that. And they do decks where they are trying to bring in more inclusivity. So for example, this card that I've got, the Lovers, for example, always depicts a man and a woman on it. And for example, of the type of deck that I'm looking for, it would be two women or it would be two men or whatever. And he's just saying, look out for one of those. So he's wanting me to get one of those decks because he loved both men and women. He did love women. He's very flirtatious, I have to say. And he makes it very clear that he appreciates the female form, let's put it that way. But equally, he absolutely loved men as well. So those are my pictures of Freddie with Jim and with Mary. But I love this picture. This is the one I put up on YouTube last night. I mean, that to me is just where we're at with Freddie. Sorry, there's that big halo light there, but I need it because it's a grey old day here in the UK. Okay, so there we are. There's Freddie. Do you like that photograph of yourself? Not really, he says. And you're looking a bit cross there, actually, in some respects. He's got his arms crossed, hasn't he? But why don't you like that photograph? He says, oh, I never like photographs of myself very much. He says, put it so we can see Mary and Jim. Okay. All right, let's do that. Let's bring him in. Let's bring him in via the Rainbow Bridge. This is just your opportunity to feel him, hopefully via this whole video, but particularly now, okay? So let's ask for Freddie to appear for us. So I'm just spraying this Rainbow Bridge energy. The Rainbow Bridge connects us between Earth and the other realms. And I'd like you just to open up your centres of clairsentience, your feeling, clairaudience, your hearing, clairvoyance, your seeing. Open up all of your senses and particularly open up your heart chakra. Open up your heart chakra. He's also saying open up your sacral chakra. There's going to be a lot of healing that comes through in this video linked into the sacral chakra. Okay, so let's just feel Freddie's energy and see how he wants to appear to us today. Okay. Okay, how he's showing me himself today is very simply dressed, actually. It is a Saturday here, so it's the weekend. Having said that, he's made me dress up a bit, but he is wearing, because he likes women to dress up a little bit. I remember that from last time. He likes femininity. He also likes masculinity. He's saying, okay, right, let's just get to what you look like, Freddie. He's just got, to me, he's just appearing in a very simple pair of blue jeans. Not that simple, he says, darling. They're very well cut. They're very well cut. Very beautiful pair of blue jeans. very nicely cut indeed. And it's just a very simple white shirt that he's got on. He's got something that looks a bit like sneakers type shoe on, but he's saying they're not sneakers. They've got leather soles for some reason. He wants me to say that. No, he's saying they're not leather soles because he's showing me the animals. No, it's just he's just for some reason he's showing me the sole. Why are you showing me the sole? It's to do with lightness of feet. It's to do with how we move. It's the boxer analogy that you should always be light on your feet. So these shoes are just symbolic, of course, because he is spirit. So it's to do with how we move through life, whether we glide through life or whether we get stuck and whether we get rigid. So to have soles that are smooth is what he's saying. He's also showing me dance, actually. He's showing me dance. So dance and boxing. But dance, I've got almost like the energy of somebody like Fred Astaire coming in, who, again, light on his feet, nimble on his feet. He's saying that we all have to be very light on our feet at the moment and very nimble for these times that we're in. So he's saying those people that have almost sort of, he's showing me people that are either light on their feet and nimble and are able to move with the times that we're in and to dance in the rain, okay, the rain being the collective energy that we have at the moment. That's one camp. Or he's shown me another camp of people who've got sort of like these rigid boots on, you know, and that feels a very heavy energy. It feels very stuck, and it's also very stuck in an old paradigm, is what he's saying. So he's saying, be like the first group. Okay, be like the first group. Okay, so thank you, Freddie, for being here with us today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. My pleasure, he says. Let's go straight to some questions, shall we? Let's go straight to some questions. So the first one that a lot of people have asked is why do you come through as a guide for some people? Firstly, do you come through as a guide for some people? And then secondly, why do you come through as a guide for some people? Okay. So yeah, he's saying that he is very willing to be a guide for anybody that wishes him to be so. And his main preference isn't quite the right word, his main speciality is what he's saying, is to bring people out of themselves, okay? So people that are in that sort of very heavy, I wanted to keep saying jackbooted. Is there such a thing as jackboots? Is that what the Nazis used to wear? Or is that something else? Is that something else, Freddie? I'm seeing almost like, it's like a Doc Martin boot. Not that there's anything wrong with Doc Martens, but it's a military type boot. You know, people who are just wanting to live, you know, totally by the book and obey, they who must be obeyed, okay? Compliance, control, and just going along with that because, you know, it's about following the crowd and feeling safe in the crowd. But what he's saying is you actually get lost in the crowd. He is showing me almost like one of these Russian or Chinese armies. It's not about China or Russia. It's just to do with military precision. It is like Chinese soldiers is what he's showing me. You know, the Chinese soldiers, when they march, they are so in step with each other. They're so in step with each other. And everybody looks the same and everybody moves at exactly the same time. And everyone has to think the same way. And everybody has to look the same way. And, you know, obey, basically. It's about obeying and control. And he's showing me humanity at being at that sort of, there's almost like there's a camp that is trying to pull people into that at the moment. And he's saying if you go into that energy, he's now showing me the centre of this square of soldiers, effectively. Soldiers being the human race. And you're in the centre and you're just lost. You've lost all of your identity. You've lost your uniqueness. You've lost your spark. You've lost your You've lost your own innate connection to the divine, is what he's saying as well. Okay, so he's saying it's very important to. Okay, what he's showing me now is a load of. It's almost like the soldiers that were standing up, all in this square, very uniform, you know, obeying the one at the front. It's almost like they're a load of dominoes now. You know when when you knock one domino and it makes all the other dominoes topple. That's what almost needs to happen. And he's saying it's as though all it takes is one person in the centre, or one person at any of the sides, or any person just to say no. No, I'm going to do it differently. Not to be deliberately antagonistic, he's saying, but just to reclaim your right to be who you are as a unique expression of your soul. And he says too many people are bowing down to uniformity. Too many people are bowing down to being told what to do. Too many people are bowing down to a higher power that is not a higher power in a godly sense, okay? He's saying the true higher power is this connection that you have to your God, whatever your God looks like. And he's showing me here his roots from, I can never say it, Zoroastrian faith. I know I've said that wrong. Okay, sorry, Freddie. You know me in words. He says, it's fine, don't worry about it. He says, you're unique. He said, the fact that you slip up on words, he says, that's exactly what I'm saying. He said, people that come down on you, my throat going, people that come down on you like a ton of bricks every time you say something wrong. He said, that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's a little unique, some would say flaw, but other people would say quirk that you have. Why do people always want to stamp out what they see as being wrong? Okay. So yeah, fair point. Thank you. Okay, let's just see where else he wants to go now. How would you cope, Freddie, if you were here? So this thing that I shared with people about the bridge yesterday and being on the bridge, and I know we were having fun on the bridge, you and me, but I also knew you were trying to teach me something. And what it felt that you were trying to teach me, Freddie, was the fact that you can, where you have to comply, you can comply, but you can do it in your own way. Is that sort of what you were saying? Because that's what I felt he was doing, which is that's what I felt it was all about. Do you want to say a little bit about that? Yeah, he's saying, yes, you're absolutely correct. That's what I was trying to demonstrate. And also, okay, he's shown me the bridge again. So as an example, at the moment, this bridge where I am, people walking over one way and then having to cross over and walk the other side of the bridge so you don't cross, all this type of stuff. He said, just look at the energy of some people on that bridge. And he's right. Some people are almost like they get into, I can see it, they almost get into a bit of a panic that, oh my God, I'm on the wrong side of the bridge. Or, oh, I've forgotten that I'm on the wrong side of the bridge. And now somebody's coming up to me and it's like, I'm going to get told off or something like that. You also see people who very consciously make a decision, I've got to be on the right side of the bridge, and they trudge like this, and it's very like, but then it's the energy of, it's almost that heavy-footed energy, I'm in the right. He's saying, he's saying even if you're complying, you could do it in a much more light-hearted way. You could skip across the bridge like I did. He's using the word skip, obviously, as an analogy. It's to do with the energy with which you approach something, okay? He's saying the spirit inside the body is ultimately free. You are all free spirits, aren't you? And so therefore you can never truly box in a free spirit. So it's the dance between compliance and freedom. And he said it's a fine line. It's a fine line. Okay. How would you fare if you were here right now in 2020? How would you fare right now if you were here in 2020? I'd probably be causing a stink is what he's saying. Okay, he's sort of wanting to go away from the whole, pandemic situation, or I'm going to pull him back to that. He's actually showing me how he would feel internally at the moment, being a very highly creative man who loved going out on stage, who loved the attention, he's saying. I loved the attention of being out on stage, even though I had nerves. I fed off that energy. So he said to be alive in 2020 as a performer and not be able to perform, to not be able to engage face to face with an audience, to not be able to travel, to have life become much more condensed into a little box. He said the persona that the persona that I was as Freddie Mercury, because of course as a soul he's more than Freddie Mercury, he's everything else he's ever been. But the lifetime as Freddie Mercury, if Freddie was still alive, he says, I would have found it very, very difficult, very, very difficult, because I needed release. I needed release. And he said that's what you're seeing in a lot of people at the moment, a build-up of aggression, a build-up of frustration, is because there isn't a release. Whether that be via something like travel, whether that be just being able to move freely, go where you want, including in your own mind. He said there's a real danger at the moment that just because, for example, you can't travel, which might be a physical reality for a lot of people at the moment for all sorts of reasons. He said what's so sad is that, my nose is itching, what's so sad is that a lot of people are also closing down their mind as well. So the physical reality might be, I can't get on a plane to go to Australia. You certainly can't do that at the moment. I think Australia's got its borders closed, but I can't do that. But he said what's happening in a lot of people is rather than thinking, oh, but in the future I will be able to, and then I'm going to go here, there and there, and I'm going to go and see this person, I'm going to go and have this experience, and I will swim with the whales and the dolphins or whatever it is you want to do. It's as though the outer world that is at the moment got a closed sign on it. You're also putting a closed sign in your mind. He said that's even more dangerous, because then you're manifesting more of the closed energy external. You're not helping the world to open up, is what he's saying. So you have to have the imagination to be able to see beyond this current experience that you are going through as a humanity. And you have to be able to dream in a better future. You have to dream. You have to dream big as well. You have to see beyond the limitations at the moment. And he's just shown me two very alternate realities that are very possible. One is almost sort of this, this militaristic, and I'm not talking New World Order here, guys. It's not what he's saying. I'm talking about people just becoming very regimented, very grey. Everyone looks the same. Everyone thinks the same. Everything gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And, that, and everyone, that. Ooh, let's just get out of that. Or this other reality, which is, okay, we are where we are, but I know, look at what's on the horizon. Look at what's coming in. How amazing is it going to feel when I next am able to do X, Y, Z? How extraordinary is it going to be when I have that person in my arms? How, just think that's where you've got to put your attention, is what he's saying. So the imagination, it's about keeping your imagination alive, is absolutely critical. He's saying it's just as critical as, for example, any other thing that you're doing at the moment to keep yourself physically or mentally well. Okay. He's saying the governments of the world that are telling you to wash your hands and keep your space and all the rest of it, he said, fine. But, they should also be telling people to have this on 100, put the dial up to 100, keep your dreams alive. There's no forward planning, is what he's saying. He's saying, and he's being a little bit political here, he's just talking about politics generally. He's saying politics generally is so short-termism, and it's just the nature of the beast, is what he's saying. It's very short-termism, whereas actually what is needed now is leaders, not just political, but in all walks of life, including from music, he's saying, including from the performing arts, to hold the vision, one vision, he's showing his song, one vision, of the future, of what's coming in. Because he's saying without that, the whole world goes dark. Okay, he's being a bit melodramatic. He doesn't mean it's going to be completely dark. He just means he's just showing me one vision, his song, One Vision. What are the lyrics to One Vision? Okay, we can look that up. I wish I could play it and not get into trouble. You see again? And not get into trouble by YouTube. If I play, I would love to be able to play now One Vision by Freddie Mercury. But if I do that, Freddie, then my video will be nobbled. He's saying that's a very British word, Amanda. A lot of people won't understand that. Compromised, Freddie. Compromised. Let's have a look at One Vision lyrics. God works in mysterious ways. One man, one goal, one mission. One heart, one soul, just one sore loser. One flash of light, yeah, one God, one vision. One flesh, one bone, one true religion. One voice, one hope, one real decision. Give me one vision, yeah. I had a dream when I was young, a dream of sweet illusion, a glimpse of hope and unity, and visions of one sweet union. But a cold wind blows and a dark rain falls, and in my heart it shows. One heart, one soul, one vision, one God, one vision. We've got to have the vision. We have got to have the vision. When you've listened to my video, go and play One Vision. Brilliant song. I'm going to listen to that on my walk later. Okay. So you would have struggled, okay, by feeling limitation. Okay, what would you have done? Okay, try and help the people that are here then, Freddie. He said, I am trying. And he said, what I said earlier about being light, being light on your feet, he said, it's really important, Amanda. You've got to be light on your feet. You've got to be nimble. And what he means by that is you've got to move with the changes. You can't be rigid. But that also means that if you're asked to move a certain way or be a certain way, realise that it's an ever-flowing wave. He said it's like being on a wave. It's like riding on a wave. He said you don't know where the wave is going to take you. If you're standing on a surfboard or something and you're just completely rigid, it's like, I'm rigid, I'm not going to move. I would assume, I've never done it, but I would assume the wave just knocks you off your feet and, you know, you're under the water. You have to be able to move. A bit like being on skis as well, I would imagine. I haven't done that either. But again, if you get on a pair of skis and you're just like, ooh, you know, like that, it's not gonna work, is it? You have to be able to move. You have to be able to flow with the changes. And he says where people are going wrong at the moment is, he said, a lot of the changes and a lot of the things that you're being asked to adjust to, by right, you're what's the expression? You are not riling against. Riling against. I don't know what the term is. But he's saying, and then you're getting stuck there. You're getting stuck in this heavy booted energy, which is like, hold on a minute, I'm not going to do this. Whereas actually, in a week's time, he's saying the rules, that whatever's going on, it's all going to change anyway. He's saying, look back. He's saying, look how much everything has moved and changed through 2020. He's saying, you are not in a static timeline. The world is not in a static time frame, which is where, as long as you try to remain light in spirit, light on your feet, flexible, adaptable, but not getting stuck in any one energy, then you're more able to easily ride it out. And he's now just shown me a storm that we're basically in, and we're riding out the wave, and then we do get to the other side. And some of us feel a bit shipwrecked by the time we're the other side. It's like, oh, thank God. Thank God that's over. Now we're back to some sort of normal life, or a different version of normal life, but we've got through it. But the ones that are still on their surfboards or skis, which is like, oh my God, I'm stuck with what they said in July 2020 that might be coming in. Choosing my words carefully, okay? I'm stuck there in that fear of what might happen. You're stuck there. The rest of us have moved on past it. We've managed to create a different reality. You're always able to create the reality that you choose. He says, that's what my life was all about. I chose a different reality. I chose to break out of the box. I chose to do it in a different way, and sod the consequences, actually, is what he's saying, okay? Because I didn't have a set expectation of where I was going to end up, or how it was going to be. So the analogy of riding that wave and then just getting to the shore in whatever state you are, hopefully victorious. But he said the ride was worth it, darling. The ride was worth it. That's profound, Freddie. Because one of the questions that came in from somebody, and there are so many, I'm sorry, I can't name who you were, but I just noticed it. Somebody said something along the lines of, you had a very dramatic life, exciting life, whatever, but it was a short life. Would you would you now like to, in retrospect, have traded that in for a longer life, maybe a life which was double that, but was maybe a little bit more safe or tamed in a bit? He said, no, good grief, no. Good grief, no. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I would never have changed a thing. Having said that, he says he realises there are people that maybe he hurt. He's saying a lot of that was due to his own wounding and his own addictions that he was battling at that time. I don't mean addictions in terms of some drug-addled mess. I just mean addictions in the fact that we all have addictions. He said, my biggest addiction was to trying to ignore and walk away from my own wounding, which is what many people do. He's shown me the partying, the endless partying, for example, was to do with not wanting to address, I'm going really hot as I'm saying this, not to address the hole, the void within himself. He's saying to fill up a room with beautiful people and champagne and music and laughter. He said, sure, it was lovely whilst the party was going, but when the party ended, the downside from it was enormous. He's just shown me the downer that came afterwards. And the only thing that would then pick him up would be another party or another gathering of people, until it got to a point where he's just showing me people traipsing in and out of wherever he was holding these parties, and it's like I didn't even know who they were. And it's just like, he's showing me, he's sitting on this chair. He's sitting on this chair in sort of like a sitting room type thing, and the door's there, and there's people coming in, and it's like he's raising an eyebrow in terms of who is it, and then it's just like total, it's disinterest in terms of who's coming through the door. Not the main players in his life, not the Jims and Marys of this world or any of his bandmates, not that, but just the hangers-on. He said there were a lot of hangers-on in my life, and I regret the influence that they had over me, but I take full responsibility for that. He said you can only be a hanger-on if you give somebody a hook upon which to hang themselves. Okay, so he showed me like a clothes horse. He said, so I provided the hooks, and they were then able to latch onto me. So I have to take full responsibility for that. I was never a victim. I was always, I did life my own way, is what he's saying. So yes, no regrets, Freddie. Je ne regrette rien. No, I have no regrets. There was a question that came in, and again I'm paraphrasing because I've seen some of the comments, which was linked into the time of your death, Freddie, and the fact that you obviously died just before. We've covered this a little bit in other videos, so I won't go on about it too much, but I just want to ask you, for people that haven't watched them, you died, literally months before they brought through treatment that would have, saved your life or certainly prolonged it. So there's almost like this weird timing to your death, and for a lot of the people that love you and follow you, like, it feels like a tragedy that, if only a few months later, he would have still be here with us. Do you want to say anything about that? He said, no, it was as it was intended to be. It was as it was intended to be. He's showing me Princess Diana. Now this is linked into AIDS. It's linked into the fight against AIDS and the ignorance at that time with regard to HIV and AIDS. He's saying Princess Diana rightfully got a lot of attention when she was the first person to shake the hands of an HIV patient or AIDS patient. And I remember it, Freddie. I remember it was on front page news, a picture of Princess Diana holding the hand, shaking the hand of somebody who had this disease. And it was at a time, and it's important that maybe younger people that didn't live through this era realise this. It was at a time when these people were classed, certainly by the media, and people were much more influenced by the media than they are now. Everything that the media said was not questioned. These people were treated as absolute lepers, absolute lepers. So the fact that Diana took this man's hand, it was literally like, wow, it broke down so many barriers. So he's saying she should have full credit for that. But he's saying, I also had a role to play in, this is interesting. Okay, he's saying waking up my community. Waking up my community. He said there was a lot of burying the head in the sand in the 80s in terms of people just carrying on with their lifestyle, not practicing safe sex, for example, just carrying on with multiple partners. Even though this disease was out there, ravaging the community. He said my death was a huge wake-up call, and he's saying, believe it or not, actually saved lives. Okay, he's saying, but again, I've had to force that out of him because he's saying it's fine to say it, but he doesn't want to make a claim on that. It's almost like that was a consequence of it. But I don't know, there's just something very non-showy about that. It's like he doesn't want to, there's a real humbleness to him. But I'm just noting that lives were saved as a consequence of some people waking up to maybe the way that they were behaving sexually, the precautions that they were not taking, and lives were saved as a result. So, and he said it was also about highlighting this disease and highlighting the need for continued research into it. So although the treatment was on its way, there needed to be another wave behind that, is what he's saying. Okay, there needed to be another wave behind that. There needed to be a continuity of a momentum, is what he's saying. There needed to be a momentum behind it. That this disease, unfortunately, is not going away. So just because there is one treatment, there still needs to be additional research done. So he said, in many ways, I became like the poster boy for it. He says, but with my consent, was it part of your soul contract? Absolutely, he says. He says he's showing me four big things in his life, almost sort of like topics or issues that he came down to demonstrate and show. One was linked into his sexuality and breaking free from the chains, again, that society puts around us. And again, you've got to view this in a historical perspective. Believe you me, growing up in the 1980s, it's a very different world now. And it's only, it's not that, and it seems like a long time ago, but it's not really. The prejudice that was there in the 1980s was very, very high, and it still exists, of course, in some parts of the world. Of course it does, and in many communities, but it is nothing compared to what it was, is what he's saying. So he was there to break down some of these stigmas and these barriers. He's also saying, and also showing, that it's not always a case of either or, that sexuality can be both. So he's referring back here to his two great loves. He's saying again, he hates the fact that people try and just pigeonhole him and box him in to one particular form of sexuality, because he's saying he was into all of it, is what he's saying, all of it. Because he's saying, let me just go there, hold on, let me just go into this. This is important, what you're trying to say about sexuality and not being boxed in. Okay, he's showing the essence and the spirit of a person's sexuality being a bit like a flame. He's saying it's a bit like a flame. And he's showing it as this beautiful, again, it's like a wave, it's like this beautiful fluid flame. And he's saying that flame can extend and touch and meet with any like-minded flame. You just happen to call it male or female, and you just happen to then give it a tag. You happen to define that relationship as something. You call it whatever you want to call it, heterosexual, gay, whatever. But he's saying ultimately it's just that dance of these two sacred sexual fires that meet each other and ignite something that is extraordinarily beautiful and powerful. So yeah, I'm just now seeing the fire elemental. I've got a fire elemental spray over there. I'm just seeing that. In fact, it's here as well. Let's just spray the fire elemental. And he says the thing about the fire energy is that everybody wants to put it out. You know, everybody wants to put it out. But you can't put it out. You can't ultimately douse it. So he's showing me examples of people who have a dormant sexuality, for example, a dormant desire. But he says it only takes the right flame to come in and create that spark again, and then you're back off and, you know, running. Okay, but it's less about identity. It's less about I'm female, you're male. It's to do with you might have a preference, is what he's saying. Absolutely, you might have a preference. And society will then label you a certain way, but it's really about the dance of those two flames that come together. Yeah. And recognise each other is what he's saying, and recognise each other. Yeah, okay. Where were we going with this, Freddie? I can't remember. We were talking AIDS, weren't we? Okay. Let's go back to the pandemic now, and let's just ask for any other guidance, because I feel there's something here in terms of how you dealt with your own illness and how you dealt with fear. There is, I think this is an accurate thing. I've talked on one of my previous videos, that beautiful song that he sang as he was dying effectively, These Are the Days of Our Lives, very, very beautiful. And the video was filmed, I did talk about this in a previous video, the video was filmed as he was effectively dying. They spent hours putting makeup on him to make himself look okay. You still look really ill. He says, I know I did, yeah. It was shot in black and white as well to sort of show him in the best light possible. Is that right, Freddie? Yeah. And what I was reading, is this true, which was that there's something where you basically said you had to down a whole load of vodka. Your attitude was like, to get through that filming, it was like, I'm going to down some vodka, and then it's like, fuck it, I'm going to do it. Is that basically it? He says, yeah, that's it, girl. So it's sort of, it's this energy of, this is not going to beat me. This is not going to beat me. And what he means by that is, of course, it beat his physical body, is what he's saying. It beat my physical body. It didn't beat my soul. It didn't beat my essence. It didn't beat me, you know? The show must go on. Talked about that one as well. The show must go on. The show just goes on. The essence of the soul, you know, you drop the meat suit, which is basically all it is. And he's saying my meat suit at the end didn't look great. Okay. He said it really didn't look great. It was not pretty. He said, but I dropped that. He said the essence of who I am lives on. He's again just showing me this wave. And he is showing me, it keeps showing me the energy of like riding the wave. So if you have a life and it's bumpy and there's challenges and there's disease, there's illness, whatever's going on, poverty, whatever, and you're riding the wave and you're keeping as light on your feet as you can, you eventually get to the shoreline. And some people get there in a washed up state, he says. I actually got to the shoreline. He's talking about heaven here, the other side, in a washed up state. What he means by that is his physical body. Okay, not the essence of his soul. He says, I did need some repair work, but, you know, no more than a lot of people is what he's saying. So coping at the moment, Freddie, people that are watching this with this level of fear that we've got, he's saying you've just got to ride through the fear. You have to ride through the fear. He says you have two choices. You either sink into the fear and you let it consume you, or you ride the wave, baby. You ride the wave and you get out there and you keep on living your life. He said, I kept on living my life and getting out there until pretty much my last day. He said, that's what I mean by I don't regret anything. You know, I lived it up until the very end. I didn't let what was going on around me consume me. I didn't let my disease define me, which is why he's saying I didn't announce that I even had AIDS until a day before I died, because I wasn't going to have it define me. I was going to be Freddie Mercury to the very end. I wasn't going to be Freddie Mercury, the AIDS patient. Okay, and he said, can you feel the difference in the vibration? I was Freddie Mercury until the end. The posthumous, is that what's the expression? Oh, yeah, sorry, Freddie, I'm doing it again. I can't get the right word, but you know, the thing that was said after he died. Oh, and of course, he had only just announced that he had AIDS. You know, he's showing me now the newsreader, you know, announcing the death of Freddie Mercury. And it's like and then the newsreader says something like, and of course he only had just announced his status, his identity as an AIDS sufferer the day before. He's saying, yeah, because I didn't see myself as that. I saw myself as Freddie until the very end. You know, that's where you need to get to. That whatever is going on around you, whatever's going on with the pandemic, whatever's going on with the media, whatever's going on with fear, whatever's going on with control, you are you, aren't you? You are you. You are you, aren't you? Get to know yourself better is what he's saying. Get to know what makes you tick. Get to know what you like. Yes, even in a contained world. He's showing me that if he had been alive now, he's showing me he would basically be pacing the room because he liked to travel, he liked the contact with fans, all this type of stuff. So he'd be inside more like we all are. He'd be pacing the room. He said, do you know what would happen? He's showing me now almost like the pacing would become a labyrinth. It would become a labyrinth where ultimately he would have to get to the still point and sit. He'd have to sit with himself. And he said that would have been an interesting experience. For the whirlwind to have stopped, come back to centre and found out more about myself. He said, I found out more about myself since I've passed, because my life was this whirlwind, but it was meant to be. But, you know, we're asking a hypothetical question here. If he was still alive, what would he be doing? He's saying he would have found the centre. He's saying, I probably would have gone the complete opposite way, Amanda. So he's showing me this very Zen-like figure here. He said that would have really surprised people, wouldn't it? And he said, actually, I would have loved to have surprised them in that way. That would have freaked them out in a good way. Because he's saying you've got to keep surprising people. You've got to keep people guessing, keep people on their toes. It's this analogy of the boxer dancing. Don't put me in a box. Don't say I have to be a certain way. Don't say I have to always produce a certain type of music or speak a certain way. I am me, you are you. Okay? So in many ways, you know, he has a very deep side. He has a very deep philosophical side to him, and he's just showing me that now. And he's saying, I think I probably would have become more Zen. He said I would have hung out with Brian more as well. Brian May, he's talking. I mean, Brian always comes up when I talk to Freddie. He says I always enjoyed hanging out with Brian, although we often used to kill each other. But he said Brian knows a lot about the secrets of the universe. He said he said that's one regret. I maybe should have listened a little bit more. So I'm just saying, if he was still alive now, he would be, you know, hanging out with Brian more. But he says we already do anyway. He says I'm around Brian a lot. He says I'm around all of them, but there's always this link with Brian and him. Brian nearly died actually of a heart attack recently, Freddie, didn't he? Were you aware of that? Were you aware of Brian's struggle at that time? Let me just see if I can tune into that. Okay. Now, I'm getting the impression that on a day-to-day basis, Freddie's around him a lot. But it's almost that, I don't know what Brian went through. I know Brian went through quite a scare with his heart. I think there was a moment when it was looking particularly dodgy for Brian. And how Freddie's explaining it to me is in that moment where there is effectively a window that you could potentially pass. It's a very sacred, holy space that other people aren't allowed to clamber into. You're not allowed to tread your boots into that space, is how he's saying it to me. So he says I wouldn't have been allowed into that space. So it was like I was aware. He's just showing me sitting like this, very quizzical. He's just like looking like that, seeing how it's going to go, with no expectation or wish for either way, because he says I now truly understand that life is eternal. So if Brian had passed at that moment, obviously they would have, met, however you want to put it, their souls would have, joined together again and they'd have enjoyed each other's company. But equally, they can still do that when Brian's still here on Earth. So I don't know, there's a bit of a veil being drawn over that for some reason. So it just feels like it's very private. So I'll respect that. But great love for Brian, great love for Brian. There was a comment that came in from somebody, Richard. This was, how did you deal with loss in your life? Do you have any advice for us during these times? No, there's another song, guys. There's another song to answer that. When I came to sit down and do this channeling this morning, I said to Freddie, okay, give us a song. And the song that I was given, which answers that question, I think, Richard, is Time Waits for No One. I don't know whether it was a Freddie Mercury solo song. Time Waits for No One. So there's this thing about the eternalness of the soul, just getting the lyrics up. Loss is relative, is what he's saying. Loss is relative. Because when you see it from a higher perspective, you don't ever actually lose anything. And he's talking about people we love in life. You don't actually lose them. They stay with you. They stay within your heart. You are able to meet them again. You're able to dance another dance with them, is what he's saying. So he's saying how he dealt with loss in his life is in that song, Time Waits for No One. Which says, time waits for nobody. We must all plan our hopes together, and we'll. You see this it's really interesting when you actually read Freddie's lyrics anew. You see so much in them that you don't realise are even there, because there's so much there about the state of the world at the moment, and they're very deep philosophical lyrics actually. Time waits for nobody, time waits for no one. We've got to build this world together or we'll have no more future at all, because time, it waits for nobody. You don't need me to tell you what's gone wrong. You know what's going on. And it seems to me we've not cared enough or confided in each other at all. It seems like we've all got our backs against the wall. It's just about, he just threw himself into life, basically. He threw himself into life. And, but it does feel as though it's interesting. He's showing me how he dealt with it when he was alive, which is just that he threw himself more and more into life. Although there was a melancholy side to him, absolutely. But he's also now showing me this higher version of himself, having healed and learned and grown, as spirits do when they pass over, which is that I should have sat with it more. I could have learned more from grief and loss if I had stopped circling, stopped pacing, stopped going here, there, everywhere, more and more people coming in, more and more distraction, and sat with it. I would have learnt more about myself. I would have, but I didn't want to, is what he's saying. It wasn't, that just wasn't, it just showed me it just wasn't the life that he chose. There's a very Zen-like quality, though, that I'm seeing with him as well, which is the total opposite from this guy on stage. It's total opposite from this guy on stage, which is just the great entertainer. I'm Freddie Mercury, here I am. There's this very deep, the closest we get to it is in this photograph here with Jim. You see that expression? There's a very deep knowingness. I think if he had lived longer, I think you'd have seen a much quieter, more reflective, deeper spiritual side of him. Really? He's saying I might have even had a go at being a recluse. He's showing me like a hermit energy. He's saying, again, this is all hypothetical, but he's saying if I had survived the illness or the AIDS, there was a timeline whereby it would have been, I would have become more reclusive. And he said it would have shocked everybody. He said it would have shocked the record company. They wouldn't have liked it. The money makers wouldn't have liked it. He said my bandmates wouldn't have liked it either. He said not because they wouldn't have appreciated my wishes, just because we were Queen. You know, I was part of a band. He said it's better that I bowed out the way that I did. He said you have many, many eons to reflect and to go deeper where I am now. So it's just like it wasn't part of the... sorry, my battery died. So just 2 more questions, because we could go on a lot longer, but I won't, because the video will get too long. I wanted to ask him a little bit about boredom. I put this quote up, which is one of his quotes: "Boredom is the biggest disease in the world, darling," yesterday on Instagram, and a lot of people were resonating with that and discussing boredom and its purpose, basically. Some basically saying that it can be the place from which inspiration truly arrives, very much like the child that's left alone and hasn't got anything to do, so then has to find something to do, and that tends to be something quite creative that comes out of a place of boredom. But yeah, Freddie's quote is actually, "Boredom is the biggest disease in the world, darling," and other people saying that they fight against that. So I'd just like to see what his view is on that now. So let's go back and ask Freddie Mercury, what have you got to say on boredom now? He's saying, truly, how can anybody really be bored when they are alive on Earth? He said there is so much to see, there is so much to do, both within the external and the internal. He's saying, and to not be able to see that is an avoidance of reality. To not be inspired by so much beauty, by nature, by the sheer variety of the different expression of the human condition upon this earth. He's shown me travel as being important, and again, acknowledging right now many people can't, but again, he's encouraged us to travel within our mind. He's shown me different cultures, different languages, different people, different climates. He's saying a big part sometimes of boredom is the fact that people haven't been able to open up their minds to different ways of doing life. They get stuck. Again, he's shown me the analogy of the boots, the heavy boots. They just get stuck in one place. They get stuck in one identity. They get stuck in one particular culture. He's saying there is a great need at the moment to move into a time whereby you truly open up the books, you truly open up the knowledge, you truly open up the songs, you truly open up the dances, you truly open up the literature, which will take you into new worlds. He says it's ego to just identify with only one particular persona or way of doing things, because the ego gets frightened of change. The ego gets frightened of being able to see through different eyes. The ego gets challenged by looking at how other people live, where they live, how they live. So there's something coming through here really linking, it feels almost like education, But that's quite a heavy word, isn't it? But that sort of feels like what you're saying, Freddie, education. He's saying it is education, really. He's saying education is important, that people need to be educating themselves to difference, to variety. That's what keeps life interesting, to not just get stuck in the same old groove, whether that be listening to different types of music, new sensations in food, in what you're reading, in who you're around. It's all about shaking it up and having variety. It's also, he's saying, boredom is a state of mind, and any state of mind can be changed by your choice. So an example would be, I was just waiting just now for what I've already recorded to be uploaded onto my laptop. And, you know, it was like 53%, 52, 53, 54, 55. It was going really, really slow. And I just had a moment of frustration, which was like, oh, come on, you know, this is boring. I want to get back to Freddie. I want to get back to, you know, doing this video. And he said to me, no, it's just a state of mind. He said, you could be doing something in those minutes where you're like twiddling your thumbs and thinking, you know, that it's a waste of space. It's a waste of time. There's no such thing as a waste of time. There's always something you can be doing in any moment, whether it is, for example, daydreaming, whether it is about breathing, whether it's about having a moment of complete mindfulness where you actually do just watch 53%, 54%, 55%. You become aware of the energy of time and you link into that, and you link into the energy of your body and your heartbeat, etc. So, yeah, state of mind. It's quite interesting because having had a little break just now before coming back to record this, I wasn't sure whether to or not, but I've got a new deck of cards that I've been saving for Christmas because they are a Christmas-inspired tarot deck. I will say more about them another time. I got them from a collectible site, so there was only one available that I know of. And I just said to Freddie, okay, tell me about boredom then. Tell me about boredom whilst I'm sitting here twiddling my thumbs. And I was like gobsmacked at the 3 cards that have come out because it's just brilliant. So what we've got is the Page of Pentacles and the 2 of Pentacles. And then we've got the Justice card. But can you see what it says on the Justice card? We've got naughty and nice. So here we've got the offer of 2 options. Remember, this is about boredom. 2 options. And we then have this power that we've given to society to dictate to us what is good or what is bad. And we get bored sometimes because we put ourselves into a very narrow lane, is what I'm hearing, a very narrow lane, which is that it's only acceptable to do this. It's only acceptable to do that. And if I stray into a different lane, and this can apply to any area of life, that's sort of not okay by this figure here, which has deemed something that falls into one of 2 camps. And I'll give you an example. It's quite interesting. It's a musical example. But at 11:11, I became aware it was 11:11. I was on Instagram actually, and I saw it was 11:11. And I'll often have this little game with Spirit where I'll say, okay, give me something then. It's 11:11. What's the message? And what came up, what was posted at 11:11 on my feed was, I'm just trying to find it, something from one of my heroes, as you know, Mark Armand, who put something up here. Okay, just a little post from Mark. And I thought, yeah, I understand what they're trying to say, because Mark, for me, is somebody who's able to sing and articulate and talk, not just about the light, but about the shadow. So, and I love all of his work. So he's done a lot of songs, particularly the earlier stuff, which was was definitely in a different lane, let's put it that way. So, you know, CD films, Sex Dwarf, lots of stuff, which is sort of pushing the envelope a bit, to be perfectly honest. And it's the type of thing that if I was in my car with the windows down and CD Films comes on as the song, it's a song, the part of me would be, I better wind the window up. You know, this is going to cause maybe a little bit of offence. But, you know, what Freddie is basically saying is, but yet you love the guy, you love the artist, you love his music. I love that song, actually. It's like, yes, okay, it's about a slightly dodgy subject, but it's also about being able to listen to something that isn't all, you know, sugar and spice and all things nice. And in the same way, there's another angel reader called Carl Gray. I think he's Glaswegian, he's a younger guy, covered in tattoos, nothing wrong with that. You know, very different persona to me, just in terms of, you know, how he looks. Obviously, he's got a different meat suit than me in this lifetime. And I remember years ago, I think he came out and said something, or he wore a Marilyn Manson T-shirt, and straight away his community were like, oh my God, you know, you're an angel reader and you're wearing a Marilyn Manson T-shirt, you know, what the hell is going on? And it's this thing about people trying to put you in certain boxes because, you know, you've got to be nice. You've got to be nice the whole time. This thing about naughty and nice, you know, Freddie's basically saying, obviously, we're not talking about do things that are bad. I'm just talking about there are different lanes. There are different lanes. And all of us, if we are a multi-dimensional soul and we are somebody that is open to the variety of life, okay, then allow somebody to also dip into other lanes from time to time, as long as it's not hurting anybody else, you know, or etc. And I think this is what these cards are saying, which is that, you know, you have the choice, you have the option to rail against this a bit. You know, this figure, which is basically society, which is you can do this, but you can't do that. It's not okay to listen to that subject, but it is okay to listen to that subject. And the more that you conform to that, okay, we're back to the jackboot type analogy we had at the beginning, you know, and I'm just like this, again, Mark Armour, he did a song called, what was it called? Something like, it was about the monotone energy of life, you know, that we're again, this robotic thing over and over and over. You know, everyone's the same, everyone looks the same, everyone has to listen to the same music, you know, this dumbing down of culture. No, you know, what Freddie's saying is open your mind to all of it, you know. So I think that's perfect. Thank you, Freddie, for that. You know, don't try and just stop categorising people, is what Freddie's saying, and stop putting yourself into categories. That if you do that, you know, you're not a nice girl or you're not a nice boy. Okay? So I was just giving an example of music, but there's all sorts of things, aren't there? As I say, obviously, within legal parameters and not hurting anybody, that's a given. What else did I want to say? I wanted to end actually with a beautiful question that came in from one of you. I thought this would be a nice place to end it on, which is, now lost it, from somebody. She says, can you ask Freddie, when will the world be sparkling again? Everyone looks so sad. P.S. We thank you for all you gave us. So Freddie, when will the world be sparkling again? Okay. He says, from where I'm looking, it still is sparkling. It's all to do with mindset. It's all to do with how you view the world. The world is still a beautiful place. It's still a place of great beauty, great creativity. But you have to have that playful, light energy and the open, inquisitive mind and the ability to dream. It's almost like he's summing up a lot of what we've been saying. So from his vantage point, the world is still, I'm just being shown this sparkly planet, and the shadow across it at the moment, linked into many things, but particularly pandemic energy, is, he's just showing me the sparkly planet and then there's this shadow over it. But he's saying you can reach through the shadow. You can reach through the shadow to something higher and you can pull down the stars. It's almost like I'm seeing these individuals on the earth plane, and there is this dark cloud. You know, it's the truth. There is a dark cloud over us at the moment. But being able to reach up to a higher perspective, pull down the sparkly star, and take it in and do something with that. Allow that to nurture you. I was watching a stupid program really, but I was watching I'm a Celebrity last night, and they had this thing whereby, you know, you had to put your face into all of the gunk and goo and yuckiness to retrieve the star, okay? And the star equaled food and prizes and all the rest of it. But it was like groveling round in the mud to try and find the stars. Well, this is the opposite. This is about looking up, looking up. You know, it is also about literally looking up. Having a positive mental attitude is really important at this time. So I don't think Freddie would agree that the world isn't sparkling, to be perfectly honest. I think he's saying it still is. It's just that you need to look for that sparkle in different places. You need to look for that light in different places, and you definitely need to look for the sparkle and the light inside of yourself. He's also talking now about his music, and he's saying, if my music can help lift you into a higher vibrational state, that makes me very happy, which it absolutely does. It absolutely does. So he's saying, put on the loud music, you know, wear the pretty clothes or the nice clothes, you know, stop waiting for a time when suddenly, you know, it is deemed that, you know, you can again be happy or go back out there. You can still have a wonderful life. It's still a wonderful life. Oh God, I've got that guy coming in now. Was that James, who was the actor from It's a Wonderful Life? Tall man, beautiful looking man. It's a Wonderful Life. I know you're all screaming at me who it is. James, was it? God's not telling me who's on it. Oh yeah, James Stewart. James Stewart. I can see James Stewart's over there. Okay, James Stewart. Okay, no, he's here now. Okay, James Stewart's the energy of that film. It's the angel, it's Clarence, okay, who, you know, the man is feeling as though life's not worth living for. He's lost everything, he's feeling hopeless, and he's about to, you know, take his life. And then the angel, the earth angel appears, Clarence, and he shows him all of the difference that he's made in his life. Beautiful film. Come on, guys, let's put It's a Wonderful Life on early. Let's do it early. In the UK, people are putting up their Christmas lights now. Okay, we've actually got a few bits out of the loft today. I'm not going to put my tree up yet, but, you know, Freddie says, why the hell not? Do it if you want to. That's the whole thing. But no, the energy of that film, It's a Wonderful Life, is what Freddie, and now I've got James here as well, is saying. It's to do with you're not appreciating, even now when you feel as though the world is under a shadow, the enormous difference that you're making in other people's life by having that positive mental attitude, by reaching out, by trying to help each other, etc. Okay, go and watch It's a Wonderful Life and listen to some Freddie Mercury. And, you know, if you're still feeling sad after that, then watch it again and play it again. Okay. Who said play it again, Sam? Play it again, Sam. Where did that line come from? Casablanca. I've got Casablanca now. Who was in Casablanca? That wasn't James Stewart as well, was it? Anyway. Play it again, Sam. Anyway, whatever. Okay, mess. Right, so I got Freddie here. He's saying you always have a chance to play it again. The play word is really important. Be more playful. Stop. Let us all stop being so serious and jackbooted, you know? Be light on your feet. Be light in your spirit. Smile. Make sure sometimes you get out of the lane that you have put yourself in. You know, it's very easy to say, oh no, society's put me in there. No, usually you've also put yourself in there. Listen to something different. Hear something different. Be around different people. Whatever lights your fire is what I'm hearing. Whatever lights your fire. Oh, beautiful. Okay, we are going to leave it there because it's Saturday and I've got a lot to do today. But thank you, Freddie Mercury. Let's just say thank you to him and his beautiful energy. And Oh, he's handing me a rose. He's handing me a single rose. How beautiful is that? Thank you. Thank you. It's a beautiful red rose. Thank you. It's almost like I want to give you one back as well. Is that allowed? Okay, thank you. He's got his cat. I can see his cat now. He's got a cat in his arms. He loves his cats. Yeah. Ginger, is it? I'm not sure. Okay, we're going to leave it there, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. Like and share the video if you did. Let's keep a smile on our face and a spring in our step. Much love. See you all soon. Bye for now. Bye.